The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. We welcome anybody who is normally watching us on Facebook Live. We're having an issue this morning, and so we are on YouTube. And so if you come to us from Autism Live, look, you found us from Facebook. We're thrilled to be here. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours for a really amazing show on Wednesdays here. We start out with Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grampichet is here with us, and she's going to be answering your questions in real time. You can put your questions on YouTube or you can send them on our live feature. In fact, there's lots of different ways that you can connect with us, and Samantha's going to show you some of them right now. And while she does that, I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots of things to do. You see that there is a computer screen. It's like a picture of a computer screen. It's a picture of a desk. If you click on the triangle on the computer screen, that starts the show, either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And if you want to go back in time through the last 100 episodes, all you have to do is click on the little memo tab that's in the upper left-hand corner. If you want to go further back than that, we really encourage you to check out our YouTube page where we have thousands of videos there. Something like 17,000 videos now. So there's a lot there. You can't do it all in a weekend. Binge watching, I know, I love it, but pace yourself on our website. Now, on our live feature, though, there is also on our webpage, Autism-Live, there's a live feature where you can be writing in questions. And what I love about writing in a question on that site is that it's completely anonymous. No one can trace back. We don't get to see who you are or where you are. And for a lot of questions, we have viewers that really like to communicate that way. It's totally free, totally anonymous. You don't have to have a login, a username, a password, a credit card, none of that stuff. Immediate gratification. You type in your question, you hit enter, and most of the time, it's struggled the last couple of weeks, but most of the time it pops up pretty quickly and I can read it. Especially if you've asked a question and we start to ask Dr. Grampichet and she has questions and you want to write back in, really encourage you to use the live feature to do that. autism-live.com. Normally, though, we are also on Facebook Live, just not today, and hopefully we'll have that together for tomorrow. I mentioned that we're starting with Ask Dr. Doreen. In the second hour today, it's Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspaw-Jackson will be joining me, and last week we had a really amazing interview with CureMark, but we were struggling with the Skype connection, and there was information about a new drug trial that we wanted to make sure that we got to you. So we redid the interview after we got off the air, and so we're going to show you so that you can get that information clearly, because they are looking for people to participate in the study. That's in the second hour. And we also have Ava Lund from Special Spirit is going to be here talking with us about equine therapy, how amazing it is to have horses with individuals who are on the autism spectrum as a companion piece to a great ABA program, and some of the camps that she has coming up. She's really an amazing woman. So that's going to be in the second hour along with In the News. All of that coming up a little bit later on. But first, we get to have Ask Dr. Doreen. So it's time.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm here with Dr. Doreen Grampichet and thrilled to be here. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Dr. Grampichet is a true expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for over 3 decades. She's amazing. She's been working all that time with the full spectrum, little kids on the spectrum up through senior citizens. There is no one, I think, that has a better bead on what's going on in the world of autism. She is great at perspective taking. So not only is she concerned with those individuals who are on the spectrum, but she also sees the future for the parents and what the parents need as well. So we greatly appreciate her and her time for being with us, and welcome back to the show. Thrilled to have you here, and I'm excited because we've already got a bunch of questions, but I want to encourage people to be writing in. We do like to give a disclaimer at the start of the show that there is no expert that can give individual specific advice in this format. There's not a way for us to get enough information to an expert, even of Dr. Granpeesheh's caliber, for them to give individual specific advice. Having said that, though, if you give her enough information, she can ask questions and give you information that she knows from her experience to help you to start to figure out where you want to go next, and who you want to see next. And it will save you time and money. And it's so enlightening.
That's great.
So enlightening.
Thank
So
you.
thrilled that you're here.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm excited. And I want to get started with a question that came in on the live feature that really is something that I find myself talking about a lot. This person wrote it in and said, my child is 5 and has never had ABA before. Your supervisor recommended keeping him out of school to focus on one-to-one therapy for now. I told my doctor this, and he said he doesn't recommend this, and said that ABA is like training dogs. What do you think of this? And so, I certainly have things that I want to say, but I'm much more interested in what Dr. Granpeesheh has to say about that.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure it out first, because the individual who's writing has a supervisor, or talk to one of our supervisors. Okay, so possibly doesn't have ABA happening. So, it's one of those, I think one of the experiences you mentioned you had early on was that someone had told you if you do ABA, your child will become a robot.
Yeah, that was the developmental pediatrician who diagnosed him. I said, what do I do? Because you're in that moment.
Absolutely.
And I said, what? Okay. She said, yeah, autism. She had a very thick German accent. I said, okay, what do I do? She said, well, take him home and enjoy him. This was her big advice. And he was self-injurious at this point. So I didn't know what that looked like. How do you enjoy that? And I said, no, there's got to be something. What do I do? I've heard about that AB. I didn't know what the third initial was. That's how in the woods I was. And she said, oh, you mean ABA. Don't do that. Promise me you won't do that with this child. It'll turn him into a robot. I said, but won't it help him to be able to speak? And she said, oh, yeah, they can train people to speak, but he'll never understand what he's saying. And she didn't use the dog example. She said it's like a parrot. It's like they train the parrot. It's a rote response. He'll answer things, but he won't have any idea what he's saying. And that horrified me.
Yeah, of course.
I said, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And for 6 months, everybody offered us, we lived in the state of California, where they were offering us ABA for free with my child who was nonverbal and self-injurious at this point. And I was going, oh no, I don't want that.
Oh my gosh, what a disaster. That's awful.
But that's still common. I get that story twice a week.
That's awful.
And that,
awful.
And honestly, we have wonderful, fabulous, who I love, self-advocates, adults who are on the autism spectrum, who spend a lot of time on computers and they write about their experience, and I'm grateful for that every day, and I love that. But many of them are very anti-ABA and say it's this teaching you a response that you don't want to give, it takes away your personality, that it's torture. And I want them to be able to have a voice, but I always want to be a voice to say, no, I have seen this in my home. I would never let my child be tortured. I would never let my child be forced to be somebody that he's not. Mm-hmm. Like, that makes me emotional. There is no possibility that I would do that. My child's world was opened so that he could be who he is.
Absolutely. And I can't, even this morning, I don't know, on the CEO call, I was reading some emails that we received from parents who were just telling us how their life and their child's life has changed since they started doing ABA. So, let's talk about this in a little bit of depth. ABA uses a lot of techniques that are behavior modification techniques, or ABA is actually the new title. In the old days, it used to be called behavior modification, so modifying behavior, and now it's called applied behavior analysis, same thing. Some of the basic initial techniques when you start doing ABA are based on operant conditioning. Operant conditioning essentially says that if you reinforce a behavior, it's going to increase. And if you don't reinforce a behavior over time, it's going to go away. That is operant conditioning. It's a very well-known part of psychology and has been around for hundreds of years. So using that principle, what we do with children is we will prompt them or model for them an appropriate behavior that they're supposed to do, and then reinforce it. And obviously, they will start increasing doing that behavior. Now, when it's a very young child or at the very beginning of treatment, it is very rote in the initial stages, which means like the first 6 months or so, because you are trying to establish routine or a instructional technique with the child, so that the child actually figures out, oh, the key to this is if I want certain reinforcers, I need to do the things that they're modeling or asking me. Like, I need to respond to their demands in order to get a reinforcer. Once that clicks, that, oh, I actually need to do certain things to get reinforcers, from there on, none of it is rote, because now it's like just a typically developing child learning, except faster. And I tell you this because how do typically developing kids learn? When you have a very young child and they start to do imitation, let's say, is one of the first things we teach, imitation, and then labeling or pointing out things they want, which we call manding, all of those types of things. The reason the child does it is that there's an internal built-in reinforcer. So, for example, when a child wants something and says, I want juice, or points to something, then they get juice. Juice is the reinforcer. And so they learn this is an effective thing to do. Or let's say if child and if mom with a baby, even like if mom is doing like peekaboo and the child giggles and the mom keeps doing it, the social interaction is what's reinforcing. Now, for our kids, a lot of that social concept of like interacting with someone or making parents proud doesn't exist. Like, you look at our kids who are going to school, right? Who wants to go to school? Nobody. The natural state of a human being is not to get up at 6 in the morning and go sit in class for 8 hours. The reason our kids do it is because there are natural built-in reinforcers. For instance, they see their friends. That's a reinforcer. They get good grades. Everybody cheers for them when they get good grades. Those good grades are what the parents become proud of and reward. It's not like the child in 5th grade who's getting A's is motivated by, having a good career and having gone to, they don't go that far. It's about the level of praise they get from their parents. And with children on the spectrum, often they're not aware or couldn't care less because they're sort of idiosyncratic. They're involved in their own world rather than outside, and they can't really see that, oh, this matters because it makes my parent happy. That's the theory of mind deficit. They cannot see things from the perspective of the parent. So therefore, they don't have those reinforcers. Therefore, we have to build in reinforcers. The only portion of ABA that's sort of rote is teaching the child to make that connection that you do something good, you get a reinforcer. And that's it. Once that connection is made, everything else, we're teaching our kids incredibly abstract things. We're teaching them to pay attention to someone else's, facial expression in order to understand what they are inferring rather than saying. You can't get any more non-rote than that. You can't compare that to training dogs, because we're teaching our kids how to tell jokes, how to enter a conversation appropriately, how to interrupt others, how to, what circumstances should you actually tell on someone versus not? What's a white lie versus a bad lie? How do you give empathy to someone who's all of this stuff is natural human behavior, and the kids learn it very, very rapidly once they get the formula. And the formula is just simply, oh, and this is important because this is where we start to, individuals with autism, who are high functioning autistic and they disapprove of ABA. This is the important part for them to listen to. The formula is not you must do what I tell you to do. The formula is if you want to, if you choose to fit in to this society, these are the rules. That's all it is. Yeah. And essentially, it's like if I go to Japan, if I move to Japan, I will need to adjust some of my cultural norms. For example, I will need to take my shoes off when I enter a residence. I will be standing closer to people because people in the Far East stand much closer than we do in America. This personal space is completely different. Eye contact, too much eye contact might be disrespectful. There are certain cultural, socio-cultural rules that one gets used to because one wants to be part of it.
Right.
And if you want to be part of it, these are the rules to play by.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Individuals with autism, from my perspective, when a parent brings their child to therapy and their child learns through ABA, it is because the parent and the parent is the one to make choices for their child. It is because the parent wants this child to be part of society. That's what they want. Now, for those who are adults now, you're very lucky and blessed that there are small groups of individuals who are very high functioning. In the old days, they used to refer to themselves as ASPI groups. And these are individuals who are functioning in society and would prefer not to have other aspects of their behavior change. That's completely your right. And you're absolutely right. You do not have to do anything you don't want to do. That's absolutely true of anyone. But then the same goes that, for instance, there are certain things that if I chose to do in society, I'd probably have fewer friends. For example, I could walk around and pick my nose.
Right.
There's no law against it.
Right.
But if I do that, most people are going to say, I don't really want to be friends with that person, right?
Right.
Or I could just choose to interrupt people all the time, right? That's a very mild thing, but a lot of people are going to say, like, she doesn't even give me a minute to talk. I'm not going to hang out with her. So it's just our own choices, how we change our own behavior. It has nothing really to do with ABA, which is truly a fantastic technique. And, when parents choose to have their children go through ABA programs, often these days with funding the way it is, Shannon, we don't even get to finish where we would like to, because we're only just getting that formula in place, teaching the child some of the basic stuff, and then hopefully the parents will continue by using skills and other things we've put out there. But the truth is that a lot of the advanced stages of ABA are just really very much focused on the child's perspective, the child's wishes, needs, desires, the things they prefer. So, whereas one child, I will say, oh, we got to develop his English, his written skills. Another child, I'll say, oh, we're going to develop his musical skills. So it's about giving the child areas of strength so that they can function well in society. Now, going forward, of course, the child might grow up and decide, I don't want to do this. I want to hang out with, other people who are not doing this. I'd like to still be isolated. Like to still do activities on my own. That's entirely the individual's choice, but now they have the skills to choose.
Yes. I always go back to, whenever I'm talking to a self-advocate, I always go back to a moment in which Jem was doing really good, but he was really at the point where he wasn't quite getting the social things to work in all circumstances.
Right.
And we were at a party at someone's house, and there was a room full of kids. And he was trying, and we had instilled in him a bunch of skills, and he knew that he had to, keep trying.
Yeah.
And but there was a moment when he hit a wall, frustration-wise, and he came out and was laying on the tile floor outside the room where the kids were, in frustration, face down on the tile floor. And he said, "I don't understand. What do I have to do to get them to play with me?"
Oh.
And it was like squeezing my throat. And of course, we came home, we picked it apart, we worked on certain things, we figured out where he was dropping the ball. And honestly, where he was dropping the ball was that he was saying to somebody, let's play this. And then they would say, no, I'm playing this, because there were a lot of computers. And he was like, join me in this, Minecraft world. And they were saying, no, we're playing this. And he wasn't making the shift to, okay, I'll play what you're playing.
Yeah.
That's where the ball was being dropped. It's a minor thing.
Yeah, it's
but
an
it wasn't.
important thing.
So we shored that up. And it wasn't an issue. But I say to people, when somebody wants to connect, it is unconscionable of us not to give them the tools.
Oh my
and I
gosh,
think
absolutely.
of ABA as this huge toolkit. There are so many tools in there, and you can use them in different creative ways.
Right.
And to minimize it, I get it when somebody says the whole thing about training dogs, and I know great dog trainers who have the happiest dogs in the world, and it's like they can communicate with their dogs, and their dogs can communicate to them.
Right.
And I go, oh, okay, so, and I know you had mentioned that earlier this morning about we don't need to stigmatize dog training.
Yeah.
Right? Like good
Yeah,
dog training,
yeah,
we don't
I
need to
mean-
stigmatize it. But I hate that we minimize the doctor to somebody with somebody diagnosed, would minimize it to that. The other thing for me, and I know I'm too much about me, but I remember when we started with GEM, ABA therapy, and I didn't know what it was, and I was so frightened. And I, from time to time, mention Peter Farrig, because he was our personal autism whisperer, and he was so creative with his tools.
Yeah.
He came in and looked at my kid and figured out, how am I going to connect with this kid? Jem made no eye contact when we started. But the thing that Jem, you guys made me fill out that whole thing about everything he liked.
Reinforcing
Pages
inventory,
and pages and pages.
Yeah.
And one of the things I mentioned was that he was really into Peter Pan.
Yeah.
That he watched Peter Pan, that when he was sick, that's the thing that he wanted. He wanted Peter Pan more than anything else. So Peter Farrig came in, and every day he would come in and he would take construction paper and he would tear, so that there would be no paper cut possibility. He would tear these swords. And he would take one and he would give one to Jem, and then he would start to do a sword fight with him. And Jem, he would just be like so excited, like, oh my gosh, I have somebody that's gonna, play with me. And within a matter of days, what Peter did was that he would freeze. And he would wait until my son's eyes crossed his eyes, and the minute and he wouldn't say anything, but then he would come alive. It was like the on button.
Yep.
And so he would start, and Jem couldn't figure out what the on button was. But then, I'm not kidding, within 4 days, Jem realized, I look at that guy in the face and he turns on.
Yeah.
And every day they would start doing that. And I just always have thought that was just so brilliant. And for people who talk about, oh, they're forcing eye contact. No, it was a choice, but he very cleverly became the toy
I love that.
that turned on when he made eye contact.
It's fantastic.
And that was meaningful to my kid.
Absolutely.
And he wanted to make eye contact because of that.
Absolutely.
That's using the toolbox really well. And I think it's important that you get with a ABA provider that has people who are taught to do that. I know that happens at CARD. I know that's what you've created.
Definitely. And I have to say thanks for that. That was, first of all, a lovely story. I love Peter. Every time you tell me these stories, I'm like, I gotta tell Peter what a good job he did.
Oh, man.
But, I have to say,
awesome.
he's fantastic. I'm so proud of him. And I want to say that it just makes me sad that doctors out there would be so... they have just so little knowledge, and it's very, very sad. I used to be very involved with a group of doctors, large group, the group that used to be called DAN, and I was pretty involved with them, and I knew them very well, many of them. And I actually did a few trainings about ABA and such, but honestly, I think a lot of physicians, their mind is closed to it. They don't see the value. ABA is very unusual. It's extremely valuable. It's probably one of the, people say, there are subsections of psychology that are also incredibly valuable, like when we work with individuals in rehabilitation or drug rehab particularly, and you can pretty much change their lives. But ABA is just an incredible subsection of psychology because it truly changes lives. And I don't think a lot of physicians would like to think that outside of medicine, there is no other discipline that changes lives. And I think there's a little bit of arrogance there that acts against that, and that's partially why they will say things like this. But the truth is, ABA is not, it is science, it's not quackery. It would never have been approved for insurance coverage all over the country if it was in any way harsh or, not good for children or not effective. In fact, to all the physicians out there who either try their best to treat autism or don't know how to treat autism, I will say the day that you figure out some field of medicine that can do well with autism, you'll also get insurance coverage. But you know what? Insurance coverage is only for ABA and for ongoing ABA, and it's pretty expensive to do ongoing ABA. So trust me when I say that for many, many years, there's been a lot of research to show that this is the best intervention if your child has autism. Don't listen to anyone. Don't waste time. Your child's 5. The window is closing. Please get ABA going.
Please do. And I'm gonna, please indulge me. I'm gonna tell one more short story that the other day, we got the letter saying that my son got into the high school that we wanted him to go to, and we were very excited about it. We went to celebrate to pick up sticks. That was our celebratory dinner, to go to pick up sticks, and we were sitting there at the table, and there was an elderly gentleman who was sitting 2 tables away, and he had like a headphone on, so he was clearly listening to music. And I just figured, a couple of times I thought, oh, is he, are we bothering him, because we were being kind of loud and raucous in the corner, my husband and my son and I. It was a party for us, just the 3 of us. And at one point I pulled out his acceptance letter and I said, look at you, you've been accepted to the class of 2021. And we got all buzzy about that, and then we said, oh, that means you're going to graduate college in 2025. And we started singing that old song about in the year 2525, and and we were just being nutty, and we were telling him how proud we were of him and how exciting it was, and so on and so forth. And then when we were done eating, we were picking up all of our stuff, and I mean, we like yacked for an hour, the 3 of us, and personal stuff too. And we were picking up our stuff to leave. And as I walked by the elderly gentleman, he said, hey, I really enjoyed the concert. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I thought you had your headphones on. And he was like, nah, my headphones have been off. And I said, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, I just really enjoyed getting to drop in on your family at this time in your life, and what an exciting time. And
that's so cool.
And he said, no, it's like, he said, enjoy it. This is such a great time. And I said, oh, thanks. We're really excited. And I walked away, and I realized this guy has no idea what we've gone through together.
Yeah, no idea.
He has no idea. The A word has nothing to do with, this man was just longingly looking at my family going, look at how fabulous their life is. And he's got no idea that there was a time that people looked at him and said, maybe an institution. And, that's why you need to do it. That's why, don't listen. I know we're trained to think that doctors are experts, not in this.
Yeah.
Not in this.
Thank you for that, Sharon.
All right. I'm done telling stories. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions, I promise. Stick with us.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they worked together and they did a couple group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and I yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch because they were all focused, they were all present, they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, and she is answering your questions live right here on the show. So I want to go to a question who says, Dr. Doreen and Shannon, hello. My 7.5-year-old daughter has this habit of twisting every social situation around to her being the victim, and has a poor me response to problems with friends and siblings. How do I respond when she starts doing that? I want to empathize, but not encourage more of it. For example, she will have a great day at school and home, and I will say, wow, you had a great day. And her response is, all the bad things that happen. Some may be true, but most of it exaggerated or untrue. And she starts to pout and whimper. Is this attention seeking? What do I say when she starts going down that road? And thanks a lot. What I love is that we're all starting to ask those questions about what's, is this attention seeking?
Yeah,
we're seeing an uptick in parents, asking what's the function in their question. Love
and
it.
This is either a typically developing child or a very high functioning child, which is kind of cool too. So what I would say is it's interesting that you just gave that example of Peter waking up when Jem gave eye contact, and we're going to do something similar here. So what you want to do is you need to, first of all, you're not going to comment on the day at all. You're just going to ask how her day was. Let's start with that one scenario. And with ABA, you can't just have a general series of environments or types of behavior. You have to go very specific. So we're going to deal with the situation where she comes home and you ask her, how was your day? Now, there are two types of responses. One is the response of her, anything that she would say where you want to encourage that, or anything she would say that you want to discourage that, right? If she's starting to complain about things or say it was awful, that's the type of response that you're not going to want to reinforce. But the type of response that you do want to reinforce, just like the eye contact thing with Jim that we were just talking about, is it was a great day, or anything positive, right? So stuff like, I had a good time, I did this, I did whatever it was. So what you do is you basically reinforce the one that you wanted to and not reinforce the one that you don't want. So when she starts to say things, let's define that a little bit better. What is a great reinforcement for her? I don't know. It might not be, wow, you had a great day. That might not necessarily be a reinforcer for her. What is a reinforcer is probably you sitting there, listening, giving a lot of eye contact, attention, just, saying, interesting, that was really interesting, or wow, or whatever, whatever it is that you have to figure out what it is that she likes. But you only do that when she says positive things. If she's starting to say negative things, you don't want to be offensive, but what I would do is you would say, and then I would just say, leave the room if you can. So very short answers, don't give eye contact. Those are two very basic things. Short responses, actually, as much as possible, no response. Just maybe a nod, acknowledgement type response. Don't give eye contact, and if you can, go to some other activity. Leave the room, do something else, seem distracted, busy, etc. So you're not giving attention when she says the negative stuff, and you are fully engaged and listening and sitting there and perhaps even offer a snack or something very welcoming and positive when she tells you the good stuff. Now, the only portion of this that's missing is prompting her. It would be helpful. As Shannon said, it took Jem a couple of days to figure out the prompt. The thing that was being asked was eye contact of him, right? So in this case, it'll take your daughter a little while to figure out that what you're reinforcing is the positive stuff. And if she's negative all the time, how are you even going to get that started? The best way, I think, is to model it with someone else. So now this could be your spouse, or it could be if you have another child, it's ideal. Because when the other child starts to say positive things, or do a practice run with your husband or I don't know why I'm assuming this is a mom, but with your spouse, and just say, when your spouse says something that is positive, then really give attention. Do that a few times with the other child or with your spouse, and so that your daughter gets to see, oh, you're really like all over them when they are saying positive things, and you turn away and actually even leave the room when they say negative things. That's all it is. That's really all it is. And by the way, this is your child's 7.5. It is definitely attention speaking. It's pretty clear. And this is very typical of girls from all the way from, I would say, age 5 to 20. So girls do a lot of this kind of stuff, and it's very, I say it's very telling, because they really have somehow picked up the pattern that every time I'm in trouble, I get a lot of attention. So even if they are not in trouble, they give you the impression that they are. And when I say in trouble, that means exaggerating bad things. Okay. So it's just because you've come to her rescue, that's all, in the past, and you just need to not do that.
Okay, wonderful. I have to point out that somebody has written in and said Dr. Doreen is so wise with 3 O's.
That's so nice. Thank you so much.
We love that. Okay, I want to move on to a question about regression and potty training. Hey, Shannon and Dr. Doreen, any tips or insight into regression of potty training? My 5-year-old has regressed and retrained 5 times now. 3 days ago, she started this new behavior where she gets really excited, uncontrollable laughter, flapping, pees on herself, furniture, toys, etc., then laughs uncontrollably. I follow it with making her clean up as much as possible, but she laughs through that, so I don't think it's effective whatsoever. Is it maybe because after a while I fade the reinforcement? After a while, I don't think about reinforcing every time she uses the bathroom like she's supposed to, and thanks so much.
Yeah, let me just read it again. As possible, she laughs through that, so I don't think it's effective. Yeah. Maybe because after a while I fade the reinforcement, after a while I don't think that reinforcement. Yeah, I don't think, so you're not really retraining. I think you're correcting where we're at and kind of trying to move forward. I would suggest that you, and I know it's tough, it's very tough because we're talking about actually peeing all over the furniture. That's very, very difficult. But I would suggest you, first of all, try to bring things back to neutral. And by that I mean you fade your reinforcers completely, which means fade your attention onto the matter. So that means like maybe I don't know how frequently this happened, 5 times now and 3 days ago. So I would say if you can, for maybe 2 or 3 days, ignore the behavior completely, just completely. And you can write back into us and tell us what happens when you ignore the behavior so that I can guide you for the next steps. But then that'll bring you back to neutral position, at which point you restart potty training from the very beginning, not from where she is, from the very beginning. So what you will do again is you will go through the process of however you did it. I could guide you through the Fox-Nazarene procedure, but I'm not sure how you did it. But you go from the very beginning and start the message again. But before this turns into a game where she's just enjoying the attention of having done something bad. Because don't forget, negative attention is attention. So, let's stop giving negative attention. What you're doing is overcorrection, which is usually effective, but let's stop and move away from it and see what happens, and then just right back into us.
To be clear though, when you're saying ignore the behavior completely, so can we walk through that just for a second? So she goes over and she pees on the rug and you don't do
know.
anything, you don't clean it up, you don't ask her to clean it up,
nothing.
you act as if it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Now after she goes to bed, obviously then you're going to clean up the pee.
Exactly.
Because you don't want your
of
carpet
course,
stained.
if she's wet, you will wait for a little while before you actually tell her to go change or help her change. So you won't connect the process so that she gets zero attention from that act for at least an hour.
And that is going to feel weird.
Oh, it's going to feel very weird.
And probably if there are people in your life that visit your house or whatever, they're going to think that you've gone completely around the bend and they're going to talk.
Right.
But we don't listen to that because we know we're going to a bigger picture. I'm just trying to mentally prepare for it because this is hard.
And absolutely. And in terms of mental preparation, here's another one that's hard. The minute you start ignoring her, it's going to increase.
Yeah.
That's called an extinction burst. So in her head, if this is attention seeking, in her head, what will happen is she'll be thinking, wait a minute, she used to come and clean things up when I did this, or she used to come and attend to me when I did this. Why isn't this happening? I'm going to up the game a little bit. So she'll maybe do it more. She'll maybe try to throw furniture, toys. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And basically that's what's important, that you get through that extinction burst. If you then attend during the extinction burst, it's worse than having attended from the beginning. So do not attend, right? Just make sure that you're not paying attention to it. And it is very possible that making her clean it up as much as possible is the portion that has been reinforcing because you're engaging with her.
Yeah.
Overcorrection, that procedure is not supposed to be pleasant. So if she's laughing uncontrollably, then it's not working as overcorrection because nobody laughs through overcorrection. So, I would just basically try to ignore it, see how it happens, come back to us because I don't, I want to make sure it's not some other physiological type of issue that's occurring here, and that it is just attention seeking. A lot of times I can't really tell because I'm not there to do an FBA myself.
Right.
So it could also be that something else is going on. So that's why I'm saying let's start with just the extinction procedure and then right back to us, tell us what happens.
And for how long do we, because I know people take things very literally, and I want to make sure that we're, how long do you do a procedure like that where you're just going to not attend to it? Is it like a 4-day thing? Is it a week thing?
It depends
and then
on
you
the
check
child.
and see.
It depends on the child. So the child could have their extinction burst on the first day and then it's over. Mm-hmm. The child could keep doing it for 3 days and then have an extinction burst. The more important thing is that you wait until the extinction burst is over, because that means her behavior will increase, then it will decrease.
But I want to make sure that people know this is not something that goes on for 3 months.
Oh no!
If
maximum, we'll be discussing it next week.
Okay.
Yeah, max. And I don't even think you should wait that long. If you want to write into Shannon like 3 or 4 days and let us know what happens in 3 days, then Shannon will email me and we'll try to get a response back to you. This is one of our regular viewers, so I want to make sure we're helping her.
Yes.
And that's all. It should actually not be a major issue once you start ignoring it. Now, on the other side of things, when you start ignoring a behavior, that means from the course of the day, the child has now lost a certain amount of reinforcement, right? Because during that period, you're ignoring them. So that reinforcement that they used to receive is important to give somewhere else. So, because you want to always keep their day relatively pleasant anyway. So I would say, there's no antecedent. I can't tell what the antecedent is or when this starts, right? It says when she gets really excited. So I don't know when that is. Like when is it that she gets really excited? So if it's only connected to, let's say, something like she's going to watch a particular show or something like that, then you have a red flag. You have the ability to, before turning on the TV to watch that particular show, which is going to make her excited, go to the bathroom. Right? Just go to the bathroom, make sure she doesn't have any pee in her.
Yeah.
And reinforce that before the event occurs. If you have the antecedent, you can make it, you can
Yeah.
do all kinds
Cut
of
it
things.
off at the pass.
Exactly. You can modify antecedents and make it work so that she can't pee, right? But if you don't know the exact antecedent, then you have to do a consequence manipulation, which means ignore it. You could do both. You could take her to the bathroom, then come back, then if it happens, ignore her. That's why I'm kind of saying, like, let us know a little bit more.
Okay. Wonderful. And for anybody who wants to write directly to me, you always have this option as well, because I know that on the live feature, it only takes a certain number of characters. And if you have something lengthy that you need to say, you can always get a hold of me at S as in Sam .Penrod, PENROD as in dog, at autism-live.com. So you can always send email to me, and then I forward when appropriate to Dr. Granpeesheh. You can always have that ability. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and answer some more of your questions. So stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and she is answering your questions in real time. And I want to say again that normally we are on Facebook Live now, and we are not today because of connection issues. So we're on YouTube. Those of you who have found us on YouTube because we've posted something on Facebook, welcome. You can still comment on YouTube, and you can comment on our live feature, which is autism-live.com. So this next question is kind of lengthy because it's connected to another place. This parent writes in, my school is finally considering skills, 9th grade, after moving districts. And I'm concerned for all the gaps that I will expect skills to find. As a single parent, I'm concerned that with no tools prior to or experts prior, this will be overwhelming. Can you assist if this happens? How do I convince them to have, excuse me, how do I convince them to have the training if skills is all they will consider and not the IBT training? My meeting is tomorrow. Will Dr. Doreen have embedded videos that motivate the school personnel to and the parent? And then it also goes down to the next section here, which is that she writes, my daughter has some super talents and her ability to choose avoidance behaviors demonstrates how smart she is. But I heard today how lucky I am from my principal that they are not sending her home. Her behavior in public is different. I agree not having the replacement skills to change the way she does things. While it may start at home, it still is challenging without the skill and the options like skills. She does things that are unsocial and apologizes as if it is how to act. Serious gap at times, yet she can perform on stage, make inference, and even surprise everyone. When I made the school take her to a competition and she placed 45th in the state in singing.
Amazing.
She does not have the new skills to replace the old. And this parent said, yes, I love the fact that we can identify these gaps in skills, but worried it will be dropped without a professional who understands and we can make differences, stating that they cannot help her in their setting capacity. I do want to say that this mom and I talked at length the other day, and I told her that she should write in and that we should get your opinion on things.
Definitely.
And I will just tell you that one of the things that I said to her, and that I want to make sure that all parents know, that our kids have a right to a free, appropriate public education. And when they're seeing behaviors at school, that they still have a responsibility to educate our kids into, if they can't create a placement, to make a placement. And that was one of the things that the mom and I had talked about.
Yeah, in fact, I love the last sentence, believe it or not, which is stating they cannot help her in their setting or capacity. That's a very valuable statement, because that is the statement that triggers Free and Appropriate Education Act. So the FAPE, Free and Appropriate Education Act, says that if a school must provide what is appropriate for your child, and if they cannot provide that, they have to pay someone who can. So if they say that, that's wonderful, because then you can hire a whole ABA team and they will have to pay for it. And it's just that simple. And we have, right now at CARD, we have several thousand kids, and the vast majority are funded through insurance, but for services that are classified as medical necessity. But when it has to do with these types of things that are need to be modified, and gaps in behavior and stuff that happens in school, for instance, the school is obligated to help assist and become part of the child's environment and part of the child's treatment. So don't be afraid of this. Start with doing the child's assessment on skills. That's the most important step. The gaps you see are valuable. Don't be afraid of them, please. If we are never told what to fix, we will not fix it. So it's important to identify those gaps, to identify all those areas of weakness, and then to be able to get the next step then is to get a team of people to help you, whether that's going to be a private ABA agency that's funded through your school district, or it's going to be your school district personnel themselves. Whatever it is, they will have guidance. Now, in terms of using skills, you need ABA training, which is what IBT provides, but you need the training in order to be able to follow and do the right techniques. So for instance, it's like the techniques that work are ABA, the content is skills, how to teach the various things. If most schools at this point say, at least, that they will have one person who is trained in ABA. In fact, I think they're obligated to even have either on-site or through a contract basis, a BCBA, a board-certified behavior analyst, who can deal with all the kids who have autism and or behavioral issues. So if they don't provide you with a BCBA, that's another thing you need to ask for. But they will contract out with someone who has the training. So it isn't absolutely necessary for them to use IBT. It is necessary for them to have someone who is trained in ABA and who can train the team of individuals working with your child. So don't forget, those are the two things, and both are very possible.
And I know from having talked to this mom that she's in an area where there aren't a lot of resources, but I do want to go back to, it really rankles with me that the principal said that you were lucky because he wasn't sending your daughter home.
Yeah.
Well, that's him not understanding how it works.
Right.
Like I would like to talk to him. He's lucky that you haven't showed up with a bunch of lawyers and had him removed from his position. That's what he's lucky about, because it doesn't work like that.
Right.
He has the responsibility, and if they don't have it, then they have to find it, or they have to create it, and as you said, that gives lots of opportunities. It's important for us as parents to remember that right now, anything could change, right? But right now, we have both IDEA and we have the Americans with Disabilities, and so a principal can't just send a child home.
Yeah.
That's so 1972, don't even get me started.
And those two things are not going to change. Like, I don't care what the administration is, those two things are pretty stable, have been stable for many, many years, and they're not going anywhere. If you were in an area, Shannon, I hate to interrupt, but I think about the parents early on in California.
Yes.
We talk often like parents in California now or in various other states, there's so much advancement in the school system that they've learned these things. But if you're in a state where things have not advanced, and so you are actually functioning like the parents I used to testify for back in the 80s and 90s, what I really recommend strongly is that you consult with a special education attorney or an advocate before you engage in this. A lot of times you go into it with a parent, there's a lot of emotion. You don't know what your child's rights are. With an advocate or an attorney, they know what your child's rights are and they don't have emotion about it, and they're going to get the job done. So, you need a little bit maybe, and there are advocates in other states, and there parent organizations like FEET often have advocates that they can connect you with. It's very important to have someone who can help advocate for your child on your behalf. And all those things Shannon was saying about the principal not knowing, that's what the advocate and attorney will tell him. These are not your, you don't have the right to say these things. You don't have the right to do these things. You can get your entire district into a lot of trouble. These are the child's rights, and that's what you need to adhere to. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of her questions, though, was that if the school does get skills and that they're struggling because they don't know how to use it, is there support? And there definitely is support,
absolutely.
and there are different levels of support. And one of the things that I talked with this mom about is card telehealth.
Yes.
That this is a very real possibility. If there are not other services there, that that you now have the ability, even if there is not a card center where you're at, you have the ability to have a card supervisor who is able to talk to you and your team in a way that we've never been able to do this before. That it used to cost so much because they would have to get on a plane and come to you because that's what was required.
Right.
It isn't anymore. That they can connect with you via Skype. They can observe your child via Skype. They can use IBT to train a staff, and there are different. It's very much it can be customized. That's what I'm trying to say. So it isn't one size fits all. If you need it for the school, card telehealth is a really great way to get to those areas that there can't be a center.
And also go on Autism Speaks website. They have an area for parents which there's a lot of resources and tools, and they're called toolkits. And one of their toolkits is about your rights in school and how to the things you can get into an IEP and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. I don't know how, because I was like, well, our next 3 questions are, but we're out of time.
Are we really?
You're
That's
out of
amazing.
time. Samantha just said, no, it's 11 o'clock. So I really want to thank all of you for having written in such fabulous questions, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to all of them. And I want to thank you for being
Pleasure.
here and
We'll
being
deal
so
with them next
insightful
week.
and truly wonderful. But yes, we will see you guys next week, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have a follow-up to that CureMark interview that we had last week. This is a really pivotal study that we want to let you know about because they're looking for more people for the study. And we have Ava Lund from Special Spirit. All of that coming up after these messages. Stick with us.
Great and awful.
Yeah, it's great progress and it's hard to get used to. Last Friday was rough for him. At the end of the second week, he had a rough. I think every session was rough for him.
He's doing really well. Like I held up a green marker to him last night and asked him what color, and he said green.
Yeah,
no prompting.
Unprompted.
And
Black,
did the same thing.
black and blue and green. He's doing okay.
The fact that he'll say colors without us telling him first, that's huge. But
He's trying to say everything.
It is.
He tries to say tangled.
Oh, yeah.
He says cars really well, of course.
You say tangled? Tangled.
Oh, yeah.
You say Bambi?
Oh, baby! Baby's fun. I'm excited to be talking so much.
He's got a lot to say these days.
Aw. Same.
Red.
Good, sorry.
Red is always hard for him, so that's awesome. He usually just says bleh for red. He'll just vocalize something.
Just do whatever comes out.
They like it when I say something, so I'll say something.
I know, he's so quick to do it now.
You want the doll? Oh, she's pretty. Kiss her. Give her kisses.
Aww.
Give her kisses.
The clinic is where therapists come on the team together, as well as the supervisors and the parents and the child. And it's a great way to talk about his progress, and if the parents have concerns about the programs that we're doing or problem behaviors that come up, It's just a great way for us to have communication with each other and be on the same page so we're consistent with everybody that's involved, parents, therapists, and supervisors. Oh, you found it. What is that?
Oh no.
What is it? Guitar, yeah.
Guitar.
So we're having him demand for things, meaning we're having him request for things, and if he knows the label, we're having him say the label. So, I mean, approximations are okay, but as long as he's asking us for something, instead of having us just give it to him, so that requires him to talk even more. Which book do you want? Which one? Mickey book? Whoa! Do you want the Mickey book or the Thomas book? Which one? Jack Riley? No. Hey, kiddo. Which one? Thomas book or Mickey book? No. Which one, Jack Riley? No. Do you want the guitar? Guitar? Yeah? Okay. Alright. That's okay. Here. Look. Look. We're gonna show Suzanne that you know what a car is. Okay? Here. Touch car. Good. What is it? It's car. Okay, what is it? Good job. Good job, kiddo. You gotta look better though, okay? Let's sit up and look at it. There we go. Wow, you gonna show Suzanne the car?
Vroom vroom.
Touch car. Good. What is it? What is it? It's a car. Good. What is it? Good job. Oh, that's Suzanne. Hi. Hold on.
You want to see? You can't see yourself. You got to be on the other side, silly.
Woohoo! See? Do you see yourself? Wow.
Oh.
Really? He's doing a lot of talking by himself. No way. I know. He wants to have a conversation so badly today.
I know.
I know. You got a lot to say today. How else do you feel? Huh? How else do you feel today? Do you feel happy? Touch car. Good job. What is it? Car. Very good. Say, look, Dad, I did it. I did it.
Good job.
No?
What are you calling that? If you say touch the thing in your hand.
Oh, what we're doing is we're having one of the objects is one of the labels that we want, which is car, which is what we're working on, and we have a distractor. So we want to see the object that we're focusing on with something else to see if you actually can discriminate between the two. So I mean,
I got you.
so our goal is just to see if you can pick the right object, basically. Touch. Hold on. Touch. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay. Ready? Okay. Touch car. No. Try again. Try again. Okay. Okay. Last one. Last one. Touch car. Yeah, touch it though. Touch car. Good. What is it? Ugh. What is this? What is this? Yes, car. Okay. Someone helping him to stop? Okay. Yeah. Hi. That's the first time I've seen him really say hi. Well, he's very interested with
Did you just say hi?
Yeah. He said hi.
He did.
And he looked at the camera and he said,
No, he doesn't. That's seriously.
I've never seen
heard
him say
kids
hi
say
to
hi.
anybody, that's like the first thing we wanted to say to our families and stuff. Is just say hi. He says bye bye.
Okay, come on, buddy.
Let's go. Go, Dad. See you now.
Bye bye.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alswell-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So,
Great to be here with you.
Great to be here.
We were just talking about the fact that everything's a little wonky because of daylight savings time.
And my son Wyatt has been having a really, really hard time with it. And now we're looking at this.
He's not alone.
Article. He's not alone.
He's not alone.
Apparently.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talked about this the other day in the car. I said, this is 2 times a year I say to people, because, just walking around or going in the ladies' room, people go, oh, I'm just so messed up and I'm messed up. Are you messed up by the daylight savings?
I'm not as messed up but he's messed up, so that messes me up.
Well, I'm messed up personally. It really throws me off. And when I hear other neurotypical people say, oh, it really throws me off, I always say to them, imagine all we did was change the light by 57 minutes and you're thrown off.
Right.
Imagine what it's like for a kid with autism that's thrown off by smaller things, every day.
Exactly.
Now you know a little soupçon of what it's like for them.
Yes.
And the truth is that daylight savings times messes our kids up.
Yes, because they're so used to schedules. And one of the main things for Wyatt, and they're used to having light at a certain time and dark at a certain time with their schedules.
Yes.
And one thing that I noticed for Wyatt was waking up early, which he, normally he will wake up early. He didn't want to wake up because he said it's not light outside.
Yeah. We're all creatures of habit, but our kids in particular, because they tend to have some inflexibility. That's one of the things on the diagnostic criteria. And so when you change things up and harshly, the truth is the light changes by 3 minutes every day.
Mm-hmm.
It does anyway, because by the time, right now the sun is setting at around at 7 o'clock, but by June 10th, it will be setting at 8:20.
Okay.
So every day it's about 3 minutes difference. We just sped it up by 57 minutes for 2 days out of the year. So it's too much. It's too much. And I think it's a great lesson for the fact why it's so important to move things slowly so that we don't notice them. But in the meantime, since the world changes by 57 minutes, we all have to deal with, all the teachers have to deal with a bunch of kids that are messed up. You have to deal with, I'm more messed up than anybody else in my house. And I'm thrown off. I didn't know, I said to you, I didn't know which one was my car. I spent 10 minutes trying to get into a car last night that wasn't mine. And I just couldn't get it. I'm just in a fog. So it's important for us, first of all, to note that if your child is having trouble with this, it's not weird.
Right.
And you're not alone.
Right.
In fact, there's been many published articles about this week. About the fact that you're not alone.
Right.
But there are some things that you can do to help yourself to get through it. And one is keep as much else the same as possible and to talk language, whether your child has language or not, you need to language what's happening. Try to make something about it fun. That can be really hard, but I look back to that. Remember when we had that horrible storm a couple of weeks ago? That was just, things were flying through the air here in Los Angeles. And Jem and I had to leave here and get home, which is quite a long ways away.
Right.
And it was hairy. It was hairy and I was scared, but I didn't want him to be scared. So we said, oh, it's like playing a video game. And we started playing the video game because I know that's what makes him. So we started playing the video game of, when do I duck and when do I, because there were pieces of palm tree flying through the air. So try, if you can, to make a game out of whatever is meaningful to them. If they're into trains, and talk about how, it's the time of the year when the train schedule is going to change.
Right.
And now we're going to go to the B schedule where the train brain gets up at this time and it goes to bed at this time. Whatever makes your kid tick.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to explain daylight savings times to him.
There is no explaining it.
No.
It's like ridiculous, and there's no real. I mean, it used to have a purpose. It really doesn't as much anymore. We're just used to it.
Right.
And I do think if we stopped doing it, everybody else would be ticked that it got dark at 7:20 in the middle of summer.
Right.
We enjoy that it's, dark later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, how do you language that to any kid? There's no sense
very
to
hard
it.
and a very, very hard thing for the kid on the spectrum to understand.
But I would be willing to bet that he understands, if we can put it in terms of, part of the year we go to school and part of the year we don't.
Right.
And part of the year we have, a holiday break and then we go back to school 2 weeks later. Well, this is, we're going to change things up. We had really good advice when Jem was little that whenever there were milestones, that we mark them for ourselves and that we mark them in some way for him. So that we were told that, like, especially when he would get to a birthday, we would start 2 months before the birthday and be told, now when you're 5, you're going to get to do this. And you'll have more responsibility, because what it did was it taught him that things are going to change.
Right.
Change is a coming.
Change is very hard for my son.
Well, your kid has been through change that other kids don't have to go
right.
through.
And right now, ordering his world is very important.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And so I would be looking at how do we keep as much that isn't daylight savings, how do we keep as much the same and make some sort of treat around, does the bedtime, what's meaningful to him? Is it getting to stay up later? Is it getting to have, do you get to go to the ice cream parlor in that hour that you couldn't before because we get to stay up later? Tying it to something that is good, so that he gets it into his head that, all right, there was a change, but I'm okay, and something good is happening.
Okay, good advice.
For all of us. And,
right.
All right. We have 2 other stories, and we're running out of time because we got great guests today.
We do. We have.
So should we cover?
Let's talk about Trump Care.
Yeah. So
that they say that it could place, if it comes to pass, could place autism and disability coverage in jeopardy because of Medicaid.
Yeah, I think it's always good to keep our eye on the ball, and there's a new healthcare proposal that's out there that's getting a lot of criticism from a lot of different people. We have experts who have looked at it and said that it has the potential to be really devastating for the autism community, and I think as a member of the autism community, that's something we need to speak up about and let our legislators know that we are gravely concerned. And the thing that I find particularly tragic is that it really looks to harm the people who are in the most need.
Yes.
That in terms of Medicaid, where Medicaid has been the gap being able to pay for ABA for some of our hardest hit families, it looks to remove that. And that there is this moment in time in which the essential, if all of this, we've gone back and forth on these 10 essential health benefits, and it was going to be a federal mandate, and Kathleen Sebelius, still holding it against her, sorry. Health and Human Services Secretary 2 secretaries ago, but she gave that power to the states, and it was to the detriment of a lot of people who have children who don't have a mandate. But even if you do have a mandate, Trump Care puts you in a position where things could go awry. I want to point out that in particular in the New England Journal of Medicine last week there was an article that cites this and in great detail, and one of the authors of that bill, Colleen Berry, or not the bill, one of the authors of the article in the New England Journal of Medicine, Colleen Berry, is going to be on the show. We had hoped to have her on the show tomorrow. That isn't going to work out, but we're scheduling a time to have her come on and speak with authority about what it is that she sees in Trump Care specifically that poses a problem. But in the meantime, I want to encourage people to check this out in the New England Journal of Medicine, the article that she co-wrote. See for yourself what it might mean for you and what it means for others in our community, and please pick up the phone, call your representatives. We hear that that's what they're listening to, is that they're making hash marks of how many people call and say, don't assume that there are so many critics of Trump care that it's not going to pass at all.
Right.
We all need to speak up and be heard on this. And we will keep you posted about when we're going to have Colleen Berry on the show. We're rescheduling with her. All right.
So we had an interview last week.
Yes.
With Curemark, a biopharmaceutical company, and about their new study, their study called the Bloom study.
Yes.
And there were some technical issues.
Yes,
so
we were having trouble hearing it, and they were talking very technically, and we were having some trouble deciphering what they were saying, and that's just not a good way to hear information that is so pivotal about a drug that actually has the potential to change autism behaviors. And there's never been anything that has gotten to this point, it's the second phase 3 trial, and they are taking families into this phase 3 trial at 30 different locations around the country. So we wanted you to get the information and get it clearly and crisply. So we redid the interview.
We did it. So we're
going to show that to you now.
To you right now.
All right. Oh, we need to take a break first, and then we'll come back to go into the interview. So that's what we're doing, and then we'll be back after that with Ava Lund from Special Spirit. So take a look at this first.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to make some gluten-free Play-Doh. It's a great activity because A, I know a lot of our kids have an allergy to gluten, and B, it's super cheap and cost effective to make your own. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 1 cup of white rice flour, half a cup of cornstarch, half a cup of salt, 1 tablespoon of cream of tartar, 1.5 teaspoons of vegetable oil, 1 cup of water, food coloring, a saucepan, and a spatula. So as you guys can see, I'm in my kitchen because I'm going to be using the stovetop to make the Play-Doh. First what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pot and fill it up with all the dry ingredients, okay? Now that I have my dry ingredients in the saucepan, I'm now going to add the wet ones, the vegetable oil and water. I'm going to turn the pan onto low heat and continue stirring. What I want to make sure happens is that it gets solidified and gooky looking, you'll see in a second, but not overcooked, okay? You're just trying to get the materials to kind of congeal. You know the dough is ready. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna just take it off the stovetop and let it cool. Once it's cool, then you're gonna add your coloring, and boom, you've got gluten-free Play-Doh. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Play-Doh with your kids. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Curemark is a biopharmaceutical company based in Rye, New York that has a phase 3 clinical trial of an investigational new medication called CMAT for children with autism between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. The trial is called the Bloom study, and it is currently enrolling at over 30 clinical centers across the United States. Now, joining us today, we have Janine Lilani, the Chief Operating Officer, and Matthew Heil, the Chief Scientific Officer. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, Nancy.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Okay, the Bloom study. It's a phase 3 clinical trial for children with autism between the ages of 3 and 8, as we said. Can you tell us a bit more about what a clinical trial is, and then we can talk about the clinical trial process?
Sure. So this is something that we determined was definitely an area that we needed to help educate on, not just for our trial, but just in general, so families considering clinical trials in the future have a better understanding. A clinical trial is really the one way that researchers can test new medications so that they can go up against the current standard of care, or if there is no standard of care, develop a standard of care for a disease or a disorder. A clinical trial can't be done by anybody. And that's a really important piece. You have to go through a fairly lengthy process of designing the clinical trial, going to the FDA, presenting the clinical trial to them, getting their approval and clearance to begin the clinical trial process. And then from there, you go to what's called an institutional review board, which is another entity that's actually charged with the safety of the patient. And so they review the protocol, which is the design of the study, to make sure that patient safety is addressed and patients are well protected. From there, you go down another level, which is, as in this study, we have over 30 clinical sites. Every clinical site has to review the protocol. The doctor reviews the protocol. If that site has an IRB, they look at the protocol, and then once they've signed off, then they can start enrolling subjects into this study. So a clinical trial also has many phases to it, which I think is also another important thing that people don't quite know. It's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then you can go to the FDA to request approval. Phase 1 is a smaller study, usually using healthy volunteers to maybe check dosing, set parameters, early parameters. Then you go to phase 2, where you are looking at efficacy. And then you go to phase 3, which is a larger study, as in the Bloom study, which is a phase 3 study. And we're enrolling 300 kids into this study. That is the study the phase 3 study is the one that you do before you go to the FDA to ask for approval. So we are now in our second phase 3 study. And the first phase 3 study was completed and CMAT, which is the study drug, was found to be safe and generally well tolerated in that study. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
I
it
think
does.
So, well, Dr. Heil, I'm wondering if you could tell us more about this investigational, that was more than I could handle today, investigational drug that you're testing. It's called CMAT?
CMAT.
CMAT.
Letters for the designation right now. It was based upon an observation that our founder made early on in her practice a number of years ago, and that was that she was seeing a lot of children with autism, and she noticed that there was a commonality amongst them, and it had to do with the way they selected their diet. They had a selective diet that seemed to shy away from sources of protein, emphasized a lot of carbohydrate, pastas and things like that. And the protein that was eaten was very highly processed. And she thought this was an odd thing, especially given the spectrum of symptoms that autistic children can demonstrate. So looking into it further and doing a number of tests on things, she found that there were a number of autistic kids deficient in an enzyme that they use in the digestion of protein. This enzyme is produced by the pancreas and it's secreted into the small intestine, and it's called chymotrypsin. It has a very important particular purpose in digestion. It digests proteins and releases amino acids, especially a group of amino acids called the essential amino acids. These are ones that we have to obtain from our food. Our body cannot make them from anything else. And amino acids, essential and otherwise, are used by the body, of course, to make other proteins. But other things they do that are interesting are like they are involved in making neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, which we know are very involved in higher order brain activities like behavior. And they form brain tissues. They are involved in the regulation of toxic substances in the body. So amino acids are involved, it turns out, in a number of things physiologically, not just building more proteins. So with that observation, we have formulated CMAT so that it replaces that enzyme deficiency. We correct what is not present. This is found in about 61-62%. Our information indicates right now autistic children are missing or have very low levels of chymotrypsin. So CMAT is taken, it's ingested orally. It's provided as a powder, a sprinkle, a granule type thing. It's been formulated so that the taste and the odor are gone. Enzymes can have a strong taste to them. And the color is neutral. And the intention is to sprinkle it on the food, mix it in so it's not readily visible to the child. And they eat their food, and with it they consume the enzyme. It's given 3 times a day with each meal. And this way, our intention is to replace the activity of the missing chymotrypsin. This will, we believe, rebalance the levels of amino acids, especially essential amino acids in the body, and normal physiological functions can take over, even affecting higher order behaviors in the central nervous system. Our trial is entirely focused on outcomes that are involved with autistic behaviors. We don't measure other things. I mean, we look at a number of things in the trial, but our focus is on behaviors. And I think the other thing that is important about it is that we've also formulated so this enzyme specifically goes to the right place in the small intestine, in the very beginning part, where protein digestion begins and is mostly carried out. That's a very important feature of it. So it's been formulated to be easily used by the patients. It addresses a specific deficiency that a large number of autistic children have, and hopefully it's easy for them to take without a taste or an odor.
And we're
I guess the last thing too is we don't require the children to have any GI upsets. This is purely based on the presence or absence of this enzyme. We found in our earlier work that a child can be deficient in the enzyme, but not manifest any overt GI symptoms. So it's not based on symptomatology.
Okay, and we're going to watch a video here in just a second, but I don't want us to miss the headline because we got a lot of good information there. But the fact that you guys are in your second phase 3 trial, and I know it's difficult for you guys because you're not allowed to make too many claims, but what we're hearing from people who have participated is that you're seeing good results, that they're sprinkling this on the food, it's correcting whatever's going on, and that the end result is that there is a decrease in behaviors that we associate with autism. Can we say that? Can I say that?
The observation. I think of efficacy, there are reports. Ultimately, that has to be decided by the FDA. But certainly the safety data we have had, it's a very safe formulation of a drug. The safety is well understood. And I think that's a real advantage.
Okay,
wonderful.
So we're going to take a look at a video that explains more about what we've been talking about. Let's take a look.
Now that you know what a clinical trial is, let's look at the Bloom study. The Bloom study is a phase 3 double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical study of CM-AT, an investigational biologic study drug for children 3 to 8 years old with autism. Let's break that down. In this type of study, neither the parent nor the doctor knows whether your child is receiving CM-AT or placebo. All of the medical professionals that are involved in the Bloom study are trained to work with children with autism. There are up to 9 study visits over 14 weeks. There are no needles, no pills, and autism diagnostic measures are performed. Every child that completes the Bloom study has the opportunity to participate in an open-label extension study where they will receive CM-AT. For more information about the Bloom study, visit www.bloomstudy.com.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what a family can expect when they enter the study.
Okay, so as you heard in the video, the study is 14 weeks. Families come in every 2 weeks. What I think a family should expect is it's very much like a doctor's visit. And our sites have been trained to work with children with autism, and many of them have done other studies that have prepared them for this. So the children will go in, there's stool samples that will be delivered every 2 weeks, and visits range from an hour to a little over an hour once you get through the screening process. I think another really important piece of this is that while this is a study for the first 14 weeks that is double-blind, placebo-controlled, which you heard in the video means that for that 14-week period, a child may be getting placebo, which is an inactive substance, or they may be getting CMAT. But what we wanted to make sure of was once that 14-week period of the study is over, any child that has been in the study has access to CMAT in the open label extension study that follows. And that study doesn't have an end date. So if a family chooses to go into the open label study and have CMAT for their child, they can continue to be on CMAT until we know from the FDA whether this drug has been approved or not.
And I think that that's super important. A lot of times, you know, as parents, we have concerns about whether to do a trial or not. And one of the worst things you can imagine is if you try something and your child is responding to it, but the study is over and then it might be another year before it is on the market and then you can get it again. But so nobody needs to be afraid of that. Whether your child starts out in the first 14 weeks and gets the drug, or they afterwards it's made available to them. If your child's responding well and you want to keep them on it, this is the only way that you can do it, is by participating in the study. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So let's find out about how families can find out more. They want to participate. What do they do?
The best place to go is www.bloomstudy.com. That's BLUM study.com. And on there, families can watch the videos, longer forms of the one that we showed today, and another video about clinical trials. But they can also put in their zip code, and that will tell them which study center is closest to them. And they can send an email directly to the study center. Okay. They can also just email us at info@bloomstudy.com, and we can help them find that site.
And once again, this is at over 30 clinical centers across the United States?
Correct.
Okay. So lots of opportunity there for families across the country.
Absolutely.
An amazing opportunity for families that want to be a part of this study and perhaps be a part of this game-changing breakthrough opportunity. This treatment. Yeah. Well, we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon and Nancy.
And good luck with everything.
And please keep us posted,
yes,
okay?
We want to, when everything is finished, we want to have you back to talk about all the findings.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break and be back with
Yes,
more
we'll be
after
back.
these messages.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes. And then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay. And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Bend it to you.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down on your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes. But rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay. So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism. And we are joined by Ava Lund. Ava, good to have you here, a very close friend of the show. Ava, you are the Executive Director of Special Spirit at Moon Shadow Ranch, in Shadow Hills, California. So tell us what you do at Special Spirit.
Well, we are an equine therapy centers. We are catering mostly to autistic kids or Asperger's, but we take in anybody that's special, and that's basically all of us. And I also have a licensed therapist on the premises, so we have been doing equine-assisted psychotherapy for a lot of foster kids. And many of them are on the spectrum as well. Horse therapy, the riding is super beneficial for a lot of our special needs kids. They need to focus, follow directions, and the movement of the horse calms them down a lot. Because I've seen kids on the ground being very agitated, and then as soon as they get on the horse, it's like it's something very calming about it. And the horses like these kids too, because they are very present and have no agenda.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us do have.
I always say that horses, it seems, and you guys have so much more experience, you know, I have this much experience with horses, but it seems to me that they have a BS meter. They can tell when people are telling the truth.
They do.
And that horses really appreciate that.
Well, I think that's the difference. A horse, it's like when you come in with love in your heart, the horse can feel it. We can come in with a lot of, anger, still have a smile on our face. The horse feels what's in here. And that's what I feel with a lot of our special needs kids. They don't have an agenda. They are just very present, and it's very calming on a horse.
Yeah.
And they like being around. I see a difference in them sometimes when a typical person comes in with buzzing around and the horse doesn't want to be around. And then somebody else with no agenda comes in, and it's like,
yeah, a place where our kids are extra appreciated. What a wonderful gift.
Yes.
And you do so many wonderful things. We want to talk a little bit about, you've got some camps that are coming up.
Yep.
Because all of us that are parents, we start to panic around spring break about what's happening, and then the long expanse of the summer.
Yes.
And wanting to give a quality experience to our kids where that's educational, but that they're engaged and fun, and potentially working on anxiety and skills that they need to have.
And that's what this is the third year we're doing our camps. And they're all inclusive, because in our philosophy, we're all special. So I've had incredible friendships formed between typical kids and special needs kids that nobody could plan on ahead of time. And we have a curriculum, so we work with horses in the morning when it's usually cooler during the summertime. And then in the afternoon, we have a curriculum planned, but then sometimes the kids wants to do certain other things. So we are not strict. We allow them to have some choices and make their own, be a little bit more independent. So last summer we had plans for the afternoon, and then all of a sudden all the kids wanted to play Duck, Duck, Goose, which I didn't know. I didn't know that game, so they had to teach me. And then one other day they saw the lemon tree, and they all wanted to do lemon juice or lemonade, right? So we took out the juicers, made lemonade, and then one of them said, let's go out by the gate and sell it. And we sold lemonade for $25 in 30 minutes. And I like that entrepreneurial that kids have when they are being supervised but not forced to do things.
Yes.
You know, it's we are like an accordion with our kids.
Yeah.
And
you also have art. You do art there.
Yes, we do. We have a ceramic studio, sort of like a Color Me Mine. And we also open up it's an area now where we can actually do yoga, gymnastics, and some other activities as well. And speaking of gymnastics, you have a vaulting program at the ranch.
Yes,
which is actually gymnastics on a moving horse. So they all experience that in the morning. And then they feed the chickens, play with the dogs and the cats, and help feed the horses, which usually is very popular.
And in addition to all of that, let me finish with the camps first. So what do people need to do? When do the camps start? And is it a thing where you have to sign up for a certain period of time?
Well, you can sign up for a week, and if you sign up before May, because then we can sort of figure out staffing and stuff like that, you get a good discount. But we know that everybody has a lot of plans for the summer, so you can sign up for individual days as well.
Okay.
A minimum of 5.
Right.
And then and the camps run
from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
9 to 3, yes. And
Okay.
extended hours are available if needed, because I know a lot of parents work. And we can always put them to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you have a kiln there too.
We have several.
So not only can they can paint something, but they can see, and we're starting to see some pictures there.
The kids. There's Wyatt, my son,
How
with
about
Minnie
that?
Moon, who is one of the horses that we donated to Special Spirits. We have Big Moon and Minnie Moon at the ranch, and there's Big Moon with Wyatt, with some of his ribbons.
Yes, because we're working on the shows
And
going
Minnie
to the Kiwanis Horse Show in October again, and which is the sort of highlight of the
I love
riding.
this slide. This is some of the things you teach. Respect, responsibility, boundaries, empathy.
We start every morning with camp, going through we call these emotional skills. And then at the end of the day, we go through and see were we really good with all our emotional skills. And sometimes they say, I could be a bit more respectful and I could set better boundaries with my horse. And these are skills that I think we all need to sort of touch base with at times.
Absolutely. I find myself wishing, why don't they have adult camps like this that you can just go for a week?
Yes.
And, I'd like to do that. Maybe we need to take a week and go to Special Spirit this summer, Nancy. Maybe we need to go there for spring break. What are we doing later on today? Doesn't it sound like fun? Because I have to say, I've been to the ranch, and there is a feeling that's there that you can't help yourself. Everything slows down a little bit. The horses bring an energy, you bring an energy. Everybody who works with you, they're just kind, caring people. There's no like high-paced, buzzy energy that's happening there. It is amazing.
We don't allow that, and I've been lucky that people that come to the ranch have embraced what we do and really enjoy being around it.
Yes. And talking about that, and I don't mean to interrupt you.
that's okay.
But you are working more with older kids now too. Talk a little bit about that.
We're starting a new program. We're going to call it the Bond Buster program, and it's going to be for teenagers on the spectrum, 14 to 20, and we're going to do like a 10-week program, 2 hours per week, and we're going to teach them all the horsemanship skills. How to groom a horse, which is all these skills that we do with horses are very relevant to what we do in life too. We wake up, we get breakfast, horses get food. We groom them, we groom ourselves. We clean their feet, we clean ourselves, and so on and so on. And learning about tack. We put our clothes on, we have to put their saddles on. And we learn them riding, and then they're going to start working with the younger special needs kids. So because I believe kids teaching kids are the best module. And then we have Molly, for instance, who's been with me for 8 years now. She's a role model. She's now 27 years old, and she's on the spectrum. She comes once a week, and she helps the kids and rides the horses and so on and so on. And eventually, hopefully, these are paid positions.
Right, and you're also instituting a buddy program?
That's
that
the
program.
Bond Buster.
So that's going to be, you're going to pair a typical
Well, we're going to,
team?
with our volunteers that we have presently, they're going to be paired up with these Bond Busters.
Okay.
So they are the ones that's going to teach them the horsemanship skills and the riding, with supervisors buzzing in the background, sort of. Because I think everybody is... because I see kids teaching kids, it's sort of, they can relate to them better than us older people. And the younger kids that are teaching them becomes role model and are feeling that they have a part in society and a place. And our special needs kids are really good at that too, once they learn a skill.
Well, I just thinking about it. We both have teenage boys, and when and I see in both of them, when they get to be the one to show somebody how to do something, they both puff up a little bit, and you know, it's like, well, I'm gonna, you know, show you how to do this. It's a great self-esteem builder.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to do, and it sort of gives us a chance to sort of reflect on in the periphery, kind of, because then we can see what's going on, and we can always build on the programs.
And it's great for building job skills. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
And
that's my main thing. It's like if we don't get all these kids back into the workforce soon, you know, because what's gonna happen? And also, I'm a little bit concerned about this minimum wage thing, because any business that can sort of pick a typical or somebody with special needs, we need to have some flexibility, and this SSI stuff is absolutely out the, you know, my personal opinion. There should be some sliding scales going on here, you know.
I agree with you. It's hard on both sides. I understand why people were saying we don't want sweatshops. We don't want people specifically hiring people who have a disability and then paying them nothing. Nobody wants that. But it's when you go too far the other direction, we can price ourselves out of the market of giving our kids an opportunity to gain job skills, which makes it, I think, all the more important for us to start earlier with things like this. Every expert that we have comes in and says, you know, the number one thing for parents who have teenagers is get them volunteering, get them doing things that require the building blocks to building to job skills. Otherwise, if you wait until you're 21, there's so much more to catch up on.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we start them we want to start them at 14. Yeah.
And talk about some of the things that you're hoping to offer in the future. You're talking about maybe sleepovers for the kids?
Yes. Oh, that's another thing too. I was just there's an organization called TechSoup that is providing a lot of free, more or less free software to nonprofits, and they sent me this thing the other day about the Airbnb experience, where you can offer Airbnb or people in the city a very special experience. So we came up with that we're going to offer them vaulting, which is gymnastics on a horse, because we have the gold medalist on vaulting, has the club at the barn. Then we're going to sort of serve them a drink, take them a tour on the barn, and then we're going to serve them a barbecue. And I want the barbecue to be served or being provided by kids that's learning how to cook, that's on the special need.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to a help group about their vocational school, or if any of you have kids that know how to barbecue, because I'm lousy. And this is a paid position. This is all paid.
Okay.
So so we're going to start offering that once a month to see how it goes.
Okay.
And then I also have an Airbnb room. It's going to be painted and ready by May, I hope. And you can bring your kid, your dog. And if there is somebody with a kid that's on the special needs periphery, they can, if mom and dad wants to go out for dinner for a little bit of an additional fee, they can leave the kid and have them stay at the ranch, and or if they want to go to Las Vegas. Because I have friends in Sweden that comes and visit me, and they don't know what to do with their kids when they come and visit. So, and it's great for them to have a little bit of separation from parents and find their own voice in society and stuff like that too.
And you have a long-term goal of making the ranch a living and working ranch for special
Working
needs
on that,
individuals.
yeah. I'm talking to a person that's with zoning and stuff, how to make it like a community center with maybe a group home where they can stay for 6 months or a year and learn how to take care of a ranch, gardening, cooking, all the things that we can offer. That's my big goal.
That's your big dream.
Yes, everybody's like, oh, here Eva goes again. But
that's how Disneyland got started.
That's right,
Exactly.
and you've made lots of goals happen. And also, we don't want to neglect telling people that there are lessons that are available.
Yes.
Oh, we have lessons every day of the week.
Right.
Yes.
So let's talk again about how they can contact you.
www.specialspirit.org, or my phone number is 323-428-5005.
Fabulous.
And you get hold of me directly.
Okay, so we encourage people to reach out to you, check out these great programs.
And to come
camps.
and just visit the ranch and sort of see if this is what your kid feels like spending their time at, you know.
What a wonderful place it is. Thank you so much for everything
Thank you,
that
Ava.
you do.
Thanks for having me.
And definitely check out these camps if you're in the Los Angeles area. This is a really amazing place for your child to be. And I love the fact that you can go for a day. Like, you know, sometimes you have a schedule where it's like, well, we're available 2 days this week, but then they've got this other thing. And so you can buy a week, but break it up.
You can design it, yeah.
Or you can buy a week and where you know, I have a week in the middle. Super duper important to do
well,
that.
we experienced from last year, that's exactly what people,
Yeah.
a lot of families are going through. They need to go and visit and stuff. And that's what the whole thing with Special Spirit is that we know what you guys are going through that have children on the spectrum, and we're here to sort of help ease the burden.
Well,
actually, it's not the burden. Because for us, it's actually more of, I'm learning more from these kids than I'm probably
Right,
teaching
but
them.
you mean to give us a break. the parents
Give you a break.
But
a
it
little
also
bit of
gives the
respite.
kids an opportunity
Yes.
for things that they don't normally get the opportunity to do. So it's a wonderful, it's a win-win-win.
Yes, that's
we
all
like
for
that.
that.
All right.
I wish I could win on the lottery too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Special Spirit, and what's the website again?
www.specialspirit.org.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ava.
We're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back to finish out the show. Stick with us.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
We're back.
Welcome back. Don't you just love Brianna Yeedy?
Yes, she's such a great young woman.
Oh, so impressive.
Yes.
And so lovely that she's such a supporter
of ACT Today.
The community and of ACT Today. It's a wonderful thing. And speaking of ACT Today, you have a really amazing event that's coming up. It's a month from today.
It is. It's our ACT Today for military families. One Hope is sponsoring it, Run and Festival. And it's a 10K, a 5K, a 1 mile run. Then there's a family fun run. There's an amazing festival with all kinds of vendors, a rock band. There's the One Hope wine tent, Stone Brewery beer. It is a wonderful family event. It's down in San Diego at Tecolote Shores, which is right across from SeaWorld.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely
You've
beautiful.
been many years.
I've been there many years. It happens very early in the morning, and it's very far from where I live. And so that's the first thing that I always remember about it, is that usually we either leave at midnight and stop at a place and sleep for 2 hours so that we're there, or we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and head down and get there as the sun is coming up. It's a very, each event has its own special flair, but this particular event, it is to raise money for military families that have applied for grants for something for a child who's on the autism spectrum. And the grants, just like the children, are all different,
Yes.
right? Some military families are asking for help with co-pays. Others are asking for help with service animals. There were a lot this particular grant cycle asking for service animals.
Safety support.
Safety support for fences.
Fencing, tracking devices, those kinds of things.
Looking for computers and iPads and those kinds of, it's
biomedical
really,
treatment.
absolutely.
Summer schools, summer camps.
Yes, summer camps. And it's so, you and I have the privilege of being able to look at the grants. And for all of them, all the grant applications that come in for families that are in the military, not in the family, they're all moving, they're all touching. I mean, it's just devastating to read. But there's something in particular about the military families that they tell the story of, oh, you know, well, dad is deployed right now. And, you know, I've got 4 kids and I'm trying to make it work, and it means that there's no camp.
Right.
And it's just very particular touching. Now, Act Today does fundraisers all year round for all of those grants, and they have one fundraiser every year that is designed specifically
For
the military families.
Yeah.
And that is this particular event. And I know we talk about it all the time, Nancy, that sometimes you get down in the dumps, sometimes you feel like there's just nothing good, right? And the single best thing you can do when it's like that is do something for somebody else, because it just pulls you up.
It does.
And if you need to do something for somebody today, I just want to tell you that you could register today to be a virtual runner you don't have to show up.
Right.
You don't have to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning with me trying to put on my awake face, right? You don't have to be there, but you can just sign up to be a virtual runner. You can share it on your Facebook. Maybe you raise $25, maybe you raise $2,500, but I'll tell you, either way, you make an impact.
And you can make a donation to a team if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Each one of the card offices has a team, but there are hundreds of other people that have teams. So really want to encourage you to participate if you can. If you're in the Southern California area, come on down.
Come down, yeah.
I don't understand people, I'm not a runner, but power walk, Jem runs. I power walk, sort of. I always ask if I can bring a bicycle. They're not letting me bring a bicycle, but whatever. It's a beautiful walk.
It's gorgeous right there around Tecolote Shores or on the water.
Everything is done by like 10:30 except for the beer and wine.
Right.
I'm not understing that, but people
They
do their run.
They run and then they come and have their beer and wine.
Have a beer,
great.
and it's the best beer and wine. So it's a really cool
And
thing.
One Hope is our title sponsor, One Hope Wine.
And how much do we love them?
We love them.
Seriously, how much do we love them? And there's booths and things to do, and because it's the day before Easter, there's a whole Easter egg hunt. It's a fabulous, fabulous thing. You really should come to do that. So
Okay, April 15th, and you can go to our website, act-today.org, and take a look, and it'll link you to the page where you can find out more about the run.
And I promise you'll feel better if you do something for somebody else. Now, tomorrow on the show, oh my gosh, we have quite the lineup for you. We've got a mom who has created, a mom who's also a speech and language pathologist, who's created a toy that your child can take with them in a suitcase and helps them to build language. My Little House, you're gonna love that. She's got a Kickstarter. We're gonna talk about how you can help to make that happen. We've got Bonnie Yates, who's on the show. We're waiting to see if we have RoboKind on the show.
What's RoboKind?
The robot, Milo the robot.
Oh, okay.
So if not tomorrow, then we're going to have them a little bit later. And Jess Block-Nieran is on the show tomorrow, the amazing mom whose son is on the autism spectrum and was diagnosed with cancer. He made it through it brilliantly. She made it through it brilliantly. She's on the board of Fullerton Cares, and they've got the Mardi Gras for Autism coming up on the 1st. So she's going to be with us to talk about all of that. So we're out of time. Tune in tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.